This is a good logo. Sure, it's just the logo slowly fading in, but the relaxing music makes it a whole lot better. Oh, and did you know that this company would change its name to NBC Universal Entertainment Japan in late 2013? And 3 years later, the company would die shortly after purchasing Paramount Japan in January of 2016, due to Paramount Pictures establishing a joint venture with Toei Pictures. That's a real shame because I heard there were good things about Geneon, and this logo is certainly one of them. Best Funimation logo. The current logo is cool and all, but this logo is significantly more so. The way the style changes almost every second before returning to normal, the pure orgasmic music that goes with it, everything about it is perfection. I know Funimation has been getting backlash lately, some of which is understandable, but their logos are undeniably what they always get right, especially this one.
That's my rotten luck!
Well, you better get used to him saying that, folks, because he says that every time he gets dragged into a predicament or something bad happens to him. It might as well be Toma's catchphrase. Okay, I like this song. It is really good. The beats and the instrumentation capture the magic side of the city very well. The lyrics are pretty deep too, focusing on suffering and fate while also describing at least a gist of Toma's power. In fact, I think the lyrics themselves are centered around Toma. The one singing this song is Mami Kawada, who is now a retired vocalist. She has done plenty of work for this series in terms of theme songs, and this one is no exception. One thing I should address is that the full version of this song sounds a little different from the one used in the opening. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing is debatable, but for me, PSI Missing is a great first theme song, no matter which version you listen to. The opening itself is also quite cool. The characters doing everyday activities while Toma is walking in the background goes perfectly with the moderate pace of the song. It also gives you an idea of what characters will appear in the first half of the season. Sure, some people may call it spoilers, but at least they don't flat out tell you what their personalities are. You won't know that Style and Kanzaki are actually good guys when you first watch this intro, and you certainly won't know the first time around that Accelerator is actually an anti-hero. Bottom line, this first opening is a nice way to start the series off. Wait, are those Ruiko Satin and Kazari Uiharu? They appear in the intro, but not in the actual episodes. This kinda makes their inclusion in the intro completely meaningless, if you ask me. This goes for both intros of this season, by the way. To be fair, Uiharu does make a few appearances in season 2. Hell, she and not Satin appears in the first intro of that season. But in the case of season 1, neither of them make an appearance in any of the episodes. Meanwhile, they make actual episode appearances in Railgun. If you're going to include these characters, you better make sure they actually appear in the episodes themselves. Otherwise, there is no reason for them to be here. That cat is not yours, it is Index's. This wind turbine is spinning faster than the other one. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, just in case you confuse this with Jonathan's Coffee and Restaurant. Okay, so I know this is just a simple superstition, but was that black cat crossing Toma's path? Because if so, wouldn't that be bad luck? Toma is already want to face a lot of bad luck, so a black cat crossing his path would have added more salt to the wound.
Finally, they got tired of running.
What was that all about? Playing the hero by protecting some dim-witted thugs?
He wasn't protecting the thugs, he was protecting you from the thugs.
Allow me to demonstrate it for you. Ha!
That railgun's blast radius was pointed towards the city. It should have destroyed those buildings over there. After all, Misaka said that a coin from a railgun can go 3 times the speed of sound, resulting in damaging things from afar.
When it's launched at 3 times the speed of sound, even something small packs a big punch.
Yep. As it turned out, it wasn't her that needed saving. It was those poor saps who were careless enough to get on her bad side.
It didn't look that way to me. It looked like you were trying to save Misaka from those thugs, who seem to be the bad guys in this case. But what you said makes it look like Misaka's the bad guy.
So you're one of the 7 level 5 espers in Academy City. Tell me, are the other 6 this rude, or are you just special? You could stand to be less condescending. Humility's a virtue, you know.
Boy, you clearly haven't seen the Misaka in Railgun. Speaking of which, what happened to that Misaka? In Railgun, she had a much kinder and less condescending personality. Though to be fair, there are still traces of that in this show. But here, most of the time she ends up being more smug, and is sometimes aggressive, specifically to Toma in some cases. But given that this show is centered around Toma, and that Misaka sometimes gets flustered whenever she meets him or someone mentions him for some reason, it makes sense.
You must be good, or you wouldn't talk to me that way.
Whoa, wait! I'm just a level 0.
So, if you're really a level 0 like you say, explain how you don't have a scratch on you.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's coincidence, or just plain bad luck.
Or maybe it has to do with the fact that your right hand has the ability to cancel out any powers. This is before you lost your memories, so you should know what your ability is, despite being a level 0.
Last night's lightning caused a power outage, which turned my place into a sweltering cesspool. It also meant that everything in my refrigerator had become toxic. On top of that, I lost my emergency rations when they fell in the sink. I crushed my cash card when I was looking for my wallet. And then someone called to inform me that I'm such an idiot I need to take a remedial class. Just my luck.
You're damn right, just my luck. You are truly, without a doubt, the unluckiest character I've ever seen.
I already hung something? That's strange. That's a girl.
Dude, how blind are you? That is clearly not some piece of blanket you already hung up. That is clearly a living, breathing nun. It shouldn't take you a few seconds to realize that.
I'm so very hungry. Very hungry.
What was that?
I said I'm hungry.
Apparently, Toma is also deaf, because there is no way he didn't hear that the first time.
So, just out of curiosity, is this something you make a habit of, randomly appearing draped over people's balconies?
It's also called curb croaking.
Toma, maybe that question would make a lot more sense after you see Index curb croak the next few times.
Do you think this will do the trick?
Yes, thank you. Sandwiches are my favorite.
I think it's better if you open it first. Folks, this is the first of many bites that Index does to Toma. I don't know why she does that, especially since it can cause serious injury to his brain, which Index bites on most of the time.
Wonderful! This tastes fantastic.
Oh, really? It does? That's a surprise, considering it's a stir-fry made of spoiled ingredients from a dead refrigerator.
You are dead lucky that Index never gets sick from it, and you don't usually possess good luck.
I can't do it!
Dude, don't eat it, you might get sick from it, unlike Index apparently.
So, do you mind telling me why you were hanging out on my balcony?
Oh, I fell. What I was actually trying to do was jump from one roof onto the next over.
How is that even possible? The two apartment buildings adjacent to each other are spread out far enough that you wouldn't even make it.
Oops, I never introduced myself, did I? Well, how rude of me. I'm Index. Nice to meet you.
Index, that's your name? That sounds like an alias to me. You can't tell me you're named after a part of a book.
Oh, yes, the Index Librorum Prohibitorum. Oh, and my magic name is Dedicatus 545. It translates as the consecrated lamb who safeguards the wisdom of the mighty.
Okay, Index, why exactly would someone be chasing a sister like you?
I believe they seek the 103,000 grimoires that I carry with me.
What?
Well, the Book of Avon, the Lemegeton, the Book of the Dead. Those are just a few typical examples of grimoires.
So where are they? It's hard to believe you're hiding a whole library under that dress.
I'm carrying all 103,000 volumes.
That's more books than I've ever seen before. What? You mean you got a key to a warehouse or something? Is this some kind of joke? Next, are you gonna say, well, stupid people can't see them?
It isn't just stupid people who can't. The whole point is for them not to be visible.
So, for anyone who didn't get all of that, the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, alternatively named the List of Prohibited Books, was a list of publications that went against the morality made by the Sacred Congregation of Index, and Catholics were forbidden to read them without permission, as the name suggests. Basically, Index in this show is a human version of the list of prohibited books, as she has over 100,000 grimoires stored in that tiny head of hers. As we see in later seasons, whenever someone actually reads from one of these books, they risk killing themselves. So yeah, these books are very dangerous.
You believe in supernatural psychic powers, but the idea of sorcery is too much for you?
Well, okay. Explain what sorcery is then. Or maybe show me an example.
I can't do that. I don't possess any magical power.
If you can't use it, then how are you so convinced that it actually exists?
Because it does!
That is the laziest answer I've ever heard. Hey, how do you know that this thing exists? Because it does!
Okay. I can show you something. My robes, they're magic. These are known as the Walking Church. They create an impenetrable protective barrier.
The walking church? What does that even mean? You keep throwing out these terms like I'm supposed to understand.
Index just told you what the Walking Church means, you dick. It is a magical robe used for defense. How did she know where that knife was?
Maybe a little experiment will get it through your thick head. Take this knife and try to stab me with it!
What? Are you crazy?
Do I have to explain everything? These robes have been sanctified the same way as a church. That means they're as strong as if they were an actual building. So while I'm wearing them, you can take a stab at me with this knife and it won't injure me one bit.
But what if someone stabbed you in the hand or face? Would that injure you? They aren't part of your robes after all.
All right then, fine with me. When it's over, just remember, you asked me to do this! Okay, that's strange.
Well, what a surprise. Nothing's happening.
It takes 15 seconds for Toma's canceling powers to take effect. One of the few times in this series where a magic breaker doesn't take effect right away.
What's wrong?
Oh, it's nothing.
How come Index didn't feel that? And how does she not hear her clothes getting ripped off? That eye catch is soothing. You don't need arrows pointing at where Toma got bit. It seems pretty obvious already.
I'm sorry. Maybe we should just forget about it. That way.
You really expect me to forget something like this? How much of an insensitive jerk can you be?
Well, you're the one who wanted Toma to prove that his power is real, you idiot.
From what you're saying, if those robes of yours really do have supernatural powers, then all I would have to do is touch them with my right hand, and that would be that.
That's assuming that your power actually works the way you say.
What else was he supposed to do? Okay, no, your clothes got ripped to a million pieces. There's no way you could put it back together that easily. Also, where did you get these big ass safety pins?
You want to know what I think? About your power. That right hand of yours? I think it cancels out the grace of God and everything that goes along with it. Huh? Your hand opposes the divine, and without God's grace, you're bound to meet with ill fortune at every turn.
See, Toma? Even Index is aware of your stupid luck.
Oh crap, my glass! Academy City is pretty much what it sounds like. A city packed with colleges, high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools.
Finally, some explanation on what this place is. Only took you 16 minutes to get to that point.
With a population of 2.3 million, it's 1/3 the size of Tokyo. About 80% of the people living here are students.
Wait, 80% of the population is students? Are most of these students living by themselves? Seems like living without parents seems to work out for them.
All right, everybody, it's time to begin. Welcome to remedial class. I had a little spare time, so I thought I'd write a pop quiz for you to take today. You'll want to do your very best on it. If your grade is poor, you'll be playing a game of no-eyed poker.
Komoe's English voice sounds a little deeper compared to the Japanese one. Personally, I don't mind that at all. If you can't replicate the high-pitched cutesy lolly voice for the Japanese version, then the other best option is to find a voice that is different but still suits her. And I think they did a good job here.
You're the exception today, Kamijo. You don't have enough development points, so you'll be playing the game whether you do well or not.
Our sweet teacher has totally got a thing for you, man. Are you too blind to see it?
You want to talk, Aogami? You have your eyes closed for the entire scene.
I wonder how Index is doing. She left her headdress thing at my place.
Why didn't you tell her about it before she left?
Teacher! Kamijo's watching the girls' tennis team instead of paying attention to you.
You made her cry. You made her cry. You made her cry. You made her cry.
Okay, class, you don't need to say that 4 times.
It is now past student curfew. All students, please return to your homes immediately.
Wait, but isn't curfew the time for students to stay home? How can it be past student curfew when a time like this is when curfew starts?
Oh well, if it isn't the little bug zapper.
Don't call me that! I have a proper name, thank you very much, and it's Makoto Misaka. I'll bet you've been calling me Bug Zapper behind my back ever since we first met, haven't you?
No, he called you a kid the first time you guys met.
Yeah, I've got a problem. You guys don't have any shame, do you? All of you ganging up like this on a single helpless young girl? It's pathetic. I mean, have you taken a good look at her? She's basically a kid. You heard her talking to me. She sounded like a child who hasn't learned how to respect her elders.
Bug Zapper was just something he came out with later. These girls' faces become blank when they turn around.
I don't think so! Well now, how you doing? Did that wake you up a bit? You ready to fight me?
Give it a rest! Thanks to your little lightning storm yesterday, all my electrical appliances are fried.
Now, you're realizing that now? You have seen what Misaka's powers can do multiple times. Why wouldn't they cause a power outage?
Is this day over yet? First a fake sorceress and now a trigger-happy Esper.
You say that as if you never met Misaka before, which you have, obviously.
Message. Aggressive EM discharge detected. System malfunction identified.
It took that security robot too long to respond to a malfunction.
You idiot! What were you thinking, zapping stuff around here?
Shut up! Hurry, we need to get out of here!
Say, do you like moments like this, where Toma and Misaka interact with each other? Well, guess what? We don't see any more of that for the next 8 episodes. Hell, we don't see a lot of it throughout the season. In fact, Misaka doesn't appear often in this series. While talking about season 1 specifically, the only time where they really focus on her is in the Sisters arc, where she makes the most appearances. Outside of that arc in this episode, her only other appearances are in episodes 2, 4, and 6 of the Index arc, episode 18 of the 3 Stories arc, and every episode of the Kazakiri arc. The Angel Fall arc to me doesn't count, as Misaka in that arc is the Angel Fall manifestation of Toma's cousin. In those other appearances, the scenes with Misaka do absolutely nothing in terms of moving the plot along. The only exceptions I can think of are in episode 21, where Misaka saves Kuroko from Sherry Cromwell's golem statue, and episode 18, if for no other reason than Misaka needs Toma to pose as her boyfriend to get Unabara to stop following her. Otherwise, they do nothing to advance the plot. You could remove that very short scene of Misaka from episode 6, and nothing of value would be lost. I guess that is what a certain scientific railgun is for. In that show, Misaka is the main protagonist. As such, she appears way more often than in Index. The trade-off, however, is that Toma doesn't appear as much. In fact, he has less screen time in Railgun than Misaka does in Index. Going into this series for the first time, I was expecting the chemistry between Toma and Misaka to play a major role in the overarching plot, similar to Taiga and Ryuji from Toradora. But I guess my expectations were way too unrealistic. Now whenever I think of a certain magical index, I think of the dark tone, the magic side of Academy City, and the chemistry between Toma and Index and not Misaka. Whereas in Railgun, I think of the much lighter tone, the science side of Academy City, and the friendship between the 4 characters Misaka, Kuroko, and Railgun debut Saturn and Uiharu. I'm not hating on Misaka, it's just a shame that she doesn't get as much screen time in Index than I hoped. But I'm just rambling at this point, so let's finish this episode.
The cleaning robots? What now? There shouldn't be anything to clean in front of my place. That's just my luck. I should have known.
Indeed, you can clearly see that it is Index from a considerable distance. Toma, your blindness is showing again. I like this song, although I don't have anything substantial to say about it. It is a nice and slow piece of music, and I think it focuses on Index, seeing as she has the most screen time in this sequence. Iku did a good job here. I'm not a fan of the ending sequence that goes with it though. I don't know, this running through the plains thing feels a bit cliche to me, and the whole sequence itself seems a bit slow for my taste. The song does make it a little better though, so I'll give it a pass. And somehow Toma and Index were able to find each other, despite each of them being in different locations.
The first day of summer vacation turned out to be an eventful one. A young sister calling herself Index showed up hanging from my balcony railing. She said she was being chased by some sort of magical society. But that's absurd. This is Academy City, a town of science, not magic.
Oh yeah, most of the episodes have recaps, while the first episode of each story arc has a cold open. Railgun would ditch recaps entirely and make all the episodes have a cold open. Some shows have episodes that go for both recaps and cold opens, but I don't mind seeing either of them.
And it looks like they've done a really ugly number on her again.
But why?
First, ask what her reason was for returning. Perhaps she came back here because she left something behind. She was wearing a hood yesterday. Now, where could that have gone, I wonder?
They tracked the magical power of the hood back to my place.
Come now. Do you really want to be dragged down into the depths of hell with me?
She risked her own life to come back here for the hood, just to keep a total stranger from getting caught up in her trouble. How could she be so foolish?
More like, how could you be so foolish? Again, you should have told her about the hood before she left. That way, she wouldn't have come back here just to get slaughtered.
Index is one of the few people with a photographic memory. She only has to see something once and it's memorized word for word inside her head. Essentially, her brain's a library. The grimoires are locked safely in places around the world, but she's read them all and stored their contents in her mind. But as she herself doesn't have the power to conjure magic, she remains harmless.
If Index can memorize things through the grimoires, then how come she doesn't know what a jellyfish, a vending machine, or an arcade cabinet is? Throughout this entire season, Index never uses the grimoires to learn about these things, despite them being incredibly valuable to her specifically, and not those who would end up dying from them.
As I've already told you though, the volumes that she carries are a bit dangerous. So I'm here. We had to locate her so we could take charge of the grimoires. We wouldn't want them to fall into the wrong hands.
Take charge?
That's right. I'm here to take her.
Okay, but did you really need to answer him twice?
Flames.
Impossible. Is this magic?
Well, Style just threw a cigarette and it turned into a giant ball of flame and now it is levitating above his hand. If that's not magic to you, I don't know what is.
Here, I brought a little parting gift for you.
I may have overdone it a little bit. Not my cleanest work. One thing's certain, though. There's no chance he survived an attack like that.
Oh, really? I wouldn't be so sure about that. Here I am.
Impossible.
Jeez, I'm an idiot. There was no reason to be scared. I have seen it work on magic before this. My right hand destroyed her robes.
Damn you!
How come that sound effect didn't play when he blocked Styles' first attack? Fire does not stay stationary. It should be spreading across the wall and the fence.
One of the 5 elements that make up the known world. The first light that pierced the darkness. The light whose presence can provide comfort and warmth, and whose judgment brings the destruction of the wicked. It has the power to give life and to take it away. It is fierce, it is hungry, it is cruel. I call upon fire to serve as my sword. Manifest thyself and feed upon me that thou shalt gain power!
Okay, there has to be other people living in this apartment building. They should already be feeling the extreme heat coming from Innocentius. And for that matter, the fire alarm should go off by now.
Runes. Magic words. They have been used by Germanic tribes since the 2nd century. There are 24 letters. They signify arcane mysticism and secret knowledge, and are the roots of Old English. Attacking Innocentius will have no effect. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. As long as the rune seals engraved nearby remain intact, he will continue to regenerate.
Index, is that you?
How are you hearing this? The sound of roaring fire coming from Innocentius should make it hard to hear her.
Ashes to ashes. And dust to dust. Prepare for the wrath of Squeamish Blood Rune!
Damn!
Oh, so now the fire causes an explosion. Apparently, Innocentius' presence wasn't enough.
This is it. I'm going to die. Okay, maybe I'm not dead yet.
Which is surprising, because you should have died from that explosion, but whatever.
What the?
These runes were not there in the previous shots.
I think they're rune engravings.
Okay, there was a fire extinguisher right there, and I know Toma saw it because there was a rune right next to it, which is the one Toma peeled out. Why not use that to extinguish Innocentius and its flames? You can argue that the runes need to be destroyed to get rid of Innocentius, but then use the extinguisher to wipe out the runes, which can eliminate Innocentius in turn. Okay, he should be dead. There is no way he could survive a fall from an 8-story building. If that bike roof didn't kill him, then the bikes themselves should have.
So foolish. Does he really think this will extinguish Innocentius? I'm soaking wet because he decided he wanted to play firefighter.
If you knew that this was to kill Innocentius, then why didn't you destroy the fire sprinklers before coming here? In fact, why didn't the sprinklers go off the moment Innocentius was summoned?
This doesn't make sense. My runes should still be working at full strength.
The ink. Of course the paper didn't dissolve. The ink's your problem. It tends to run when it gets wet.
In that case, why didn't Style just laminate the runes so that would be possible?
I have to find Innocentius. Innocentius!
Dude, just summon it again. Although, given the circumstances, that isn't possible.
Now then, sorcerer.
Ashes to ashes! And dust to dust! I call on the power of Squeamish Bloodroot!
All right, Index. I've made my decision. I don't want to be dragged into hell. So that leaves me one choice. I'll free you from its clutches, using this!
And that is the first of many punches in the face that Toma likes to do, because it happens a lot in this series. It gets so repetitive as the series goes on that I wish Toma would learn some martial arts, because all he does for a majority of these fights is punch and block things, both of which are done with his right hand because it is the most reliable tool he has. I can't believe all of that took 16 minutes, when it could have been shorter. In fact, this leads me to a problem that I have with this season, and is the most prevalent in this story arc. The pacing is not very consistent. Let's start with pacings of dialogue. This doesn't happen often, but sometimes there are long pauses between lines of dialogue.
Excuse me. You ate yourself to ruin? How?
The hamburgers were only 100 yen each.
And other times, they have to repeat what a character said, seemingly to pad out the episode's runtime.
We had to locate her so we could take charge of the grimoires. We wouldn't want them to fall into the wrong hands.
Take charge?
That's right. I'm here to take her.
A bigger issue is during fight scenes. They tend to drag on for too long, and sometimes a lot of talking happens between fights. I wouldn't mind that if the fights themselves were compelling, but they're not. The action in them is very shallow due to Toma's lacking combat abilities. Not every fight scene is like that, but the ones that are actually good are few and far between. Even the scenes with only exposition and no combat tend to have too much talking, which can pad out the episode considerably. And sometimes it can take an unnecessarily long time for a character to do something simple. Keep in mind, these are examples of slow pacing. Other scenes are paced fairly well and don't drag out, at least for me. But combining those scenes with the scenes that drag on is where the inconsistency lies. Now, while I'm on the subject of slow pacing, episodes 2 and 3 should have been one episode. The first half would be about Toma finding style, and the other half would focus on Index regenerating herself by using a ritual to call down an angel. But instead, they decided to drag the style fight to 16 minutes, with a scene after that not being relevant to the story of the arc. And in the case of episode 3, the ritual scene could have been shorter, but they decided to have Komoe make a mistake, forcing Index to do the ritual again, making the scene drag on even longer. The Index arc is the longest story arc in this season, but this is largely due to spending too much time doing specific things when they could be over in 6 to 8 minutes at best. It and all of the other story arcs are bearable to watch despite these issues. But my point is that some of the episodes could have been paced better by removing a lot of fluff. Damn, that's a lot of criticisms. I promise there won't be any more long tangents after this one. Let's continue.
There you are! Oh, finally, I've been looking for you everywhere. I knew there was no way you were kept late for remedial class, and sure enough, here you are, out enjoying all the pleasures the night has to offer.
Give me a break, Kuroko. Exactly what part of this makes it look like I'm out for a leisurely night on the town?
Oh, I can answer that easily. This place isn't on your way home from school. The fact that you're here at all means you took a detour for some reason.
Well, I had to run an errand in this part of town. And why are you here anyway?
All right, I'm here on official business. For judgment.
How come Misaka didn't know that Kuroko would show up? She knows that Kuroko is a member of Judgment, right? It shouldn't be that hard for her to believe that this is something that someone like Kuroko would show up for.
Toma? Is something wrong? You look so tired and pale.
You're worried about me? We need to do something about your injuries.
I'll be all right. Really. It's not bad.
It's not bad, but it clearly is cliché.
Some espers are born with their psychic abilities, and some develop them over time. Magic isn't a power one can be born with, but something that is learned. It was created by people who saw the espers and desired power of their own. Magic and psychic ability are mutually exclusive.
So, all of the students who live here working to develop their psychic abilities.
Right. They can't use magic.
So, espers can't use magic. That must be part of why science and magic are enemies here. If science and magic were intertwined, espers would be able to use magic, but they don't because conflict.
It would be my rotten luck that she's already gone to sleep. I guess I'll have to be more aggressive. Here goes. Oh!
Yes, I'm coming! No use banging like that. If you haven't noticed yet, it's a very sturdy door. Useful for keeping salesmen out. Kamijo?
How does Toma know where Komoe lives? Did he get her address from someone? And let me just get this out of the way right now. I know a lot of people are going to use the light novel to explain things that got cut out in the anime, and I'm here to inform you that I do not give a damn about the light novel. This video is about the anime only, and I'm judging it for what it is, not what it could have been. I don't read mangas or light novels anyway.
Tonight, the place is a bit of a mess.
The lolly teacher, who is wearing a bunny suit right now, is a chain smoker and a drinker. I know she's a lot older than what her appearance may suggest, but I swear Academy City is full of the weirdest of people.
Alright, Index. It's settled. Is there anything else I can do to help you?
No, there is not. Unfortunately, under the circumstances, the only option is for you to vacate this place entirely. Your presence will cause interference. If you remain, your power will cancel the recovery magic.
You just told him that a few minutes ago.
Is there any magic in there that can heal injuries?
Yes, there is.
Let's use it.
You couldn't perform it, even if I was able to teach you the spell. And even if you performed it perfectly down to the last detail, your power would interfere.
Damn. Please, take good care of her.
Kamijo! I have a phone right there!
Why didn't Toma hear her? Komoe said that before he closed the door. How the hell did she get all the way up here? And more importantly, how is she able to maintain her balance?
What time is it? I need the exact minute in Japan Standard Time. Also, can you please tell me what the date is?
Today is the 20th of July, and the time is now 8:30.
You didn't look at a clock before answering. How can you be so certain it is 8:30 precisely?
I couldn't have checked a clock because there aren't any here. I don't need them. But I promise the time I gave you was precise. My internal clock is accurate down to the second. My eating habits, exercise rhythms, and sleep patterns are so regulated that my body always knows what time it is.
Judging by the position of the stars and the phase of the moon, your estimation is correct within a .083 margin of error. I can therefore confirm it. Today is July 20th and it is 8:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time.
Okay, but did you really need to look at the stars to confirm that? Was Komoe saying that she has an internal clock not good enough for you?
The cusp of Cancer. The hour is between 8 p.m. and 12 midnight. The direction westward facing. Invoking the protection of Undine. We will require the aid of an angel.
What is it that you're doing?
It's magic. From this point forward, I will need your assistance. I must borrow your—
Damn, how is she able to draw all of that in a very short period of time?
Why don't you lie back down instead? We'll wait for the ambulance. Let's see. I must have bandages somewhere.
Common first aid will do no good. Unfortunately, nothing you can do will suffice to close my wounds completely. Nor is there any reason to call for additional help.
If there is no reason to call for outside assistance, then why did you allow Toma to call for an ambulance?
What are those?
They represent the beer cans.
And luckily, those beads were placed exactly where they are supposed to be in order to replicate the placement of the actual beer cans. What are the odds? They just copied the chant from the Japanese version and pasted it to the English dub, didn't they? Komoe hitting the table with her knee and leaning on it afterwards not only would have ruined the miniature of the room, but also the pentagram created using Index's blood.
Now you must visualize.
What?
Picture a golden angel. It should have 2 wings. And the body of a child. See the form of a beautiful angel.
An angel? It won't work. How am I supposed to summon an angel? Uh-oh.
You are not actually summoning the angel itself. Rather, as a spellcaster, you are using your will to create the form of an angel.
Oh, okay. A beautiful angel. 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 Incredible! I thought you said I wasn't summoning a real angel. That looks real.
That angel was not golden or beautiful.
A form stabilization failure. So long as the temple is protected by the blue of Undine.
What exactly is the blue Undine protecting the temple from? Anything in general?
So long as the temple is protected by the blue of Undine, it is no matter. We can continue our work.
Again, this would have been over by now if Komoe didn't make any mistakes during the ritual.
Thank goodness. Toma won't have to pay for this.
Pay for it? Like how?
It's difficult to explain, but if I had died here, the consequences he would have faced might have been terrible.
It sounds like you were more concerned about Kamajo instead of your own injuries.
How is that difficult to explain? And Toma told you, Index, that you should be more worried about your injuries than him. Your life was and still is on the line after all.
Explain this. Miss Komoe is an Academy City teacher.
Wait, didn't Toma call the ambulance? Did the ambulance arrive? Or did Toma tell them to call off the operation off screen?
Explain this. Miss Kamoy is an Academy City teacher. She's a bona fide beer-drinking, chain-smoking adult. How is it that her PJs even fit you? I mean, the age difference must be huge.
Toma would be great at Rewatch.
It's rude to talk down to people. And anyway, they don't fit that well. The chest area is way too tight on me.
Hey, after what I did, you're making fun of me?
What? I wasn't.
You just what, huh?
No, it's nothing.
I am an adult, thank you very much.
You don't even look like an adult to me, but apparently you're one of the oldest adults in this series, despite looking like a 12-year-old child.
And as for you, Kamajo, it's time you answered some questions. Who is this girl to you?
My younger sister.
You were the worst liar ever! Look at her! She's got silver hair and blue eyes!
Index does not have silver hair and blue eyes. She has blue hair and green eyes. Not only do you not look ideal for a teacher, but you are also colorblind. Convenient spare towel on a conveniently placed bucket.
The grimoires are really dangerous. They're full of unconventional ideas that alter basic laws of nature. It's like there are two different worlds. This one and the one within the grimoires, and the other one is toxic.
Like poison?
When people of this world who aren't sorcerers read what is written in the grimoires, it damages their brains. Normal humans were never meant to read such poisonous ideas, you see. I belong to a branch of the English Puritan Church. England is a country of magic, so anti-sorcery practices like witch hunts and inquisitions became increasingly commonplace over the centuries. The English Puritan Church created a special branch for such things. This branch investigates magic and develops countermeasures against sorcerers. It's called the Church of Necessary Evil, or Necessarius.
And you're part of the sect?
It's not the books that matter, it's what's written inside them. Even if the original works were destroyed, their contents could have been passed on. Besides, humans wouldn't be able to dispose of the originals. Destroying that kind of magic isn't something the human mind can bear. And since the information can't be destroyed, they had no choice but to seal it in a safe place.
So basically, it's like there's a bomb inside your head and some evil people want to get their hands on it.
Anyone who could use all 103,000 volumes would have the power to warp the entire world.
How could you? This is major stuff and you waited until now to tell me?
You're such a skeptic, I didn't think you were going to believe me, and I didn't want to frighten you off. And also, well, I didn't want you to stop liking me.
That's why you kept it from me? Well, I deserve better. Church of Necessary Evil, magic robes, a whole library of evil books. Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I still have a hard time buying it.
Why? All of Styles' magic power should have been enough to convince you that magic does exist. But even after hearing Index explain about Necessarius and the grimoires, you still don't believe it? Also, Index, you really should have told him about all of this sooner. That way, this whole ordeal would have blown over a lot quicker.
How is Index?
Still alive.
How can you tell? From where you're sitting, it can be hard to find Komoe's apartment even with binoculars on.
Eventually, Miss Komoe returned from her shopping. She invited us to stay at her place.
Why would Komoe invite you to a place that you're already at?
And she didn't say a word about our earlier conversation. Maybe she got distracted with her errands and forgot about it. Or maybe she just pretended to forget. I wasn't about to ask.
You're damn lucky that you didn't, otherwise she would have reported it to the governing board. Also, this series shows more of Toma's bad luck by having him sleep on the floor, while Index and Komoe sleep on the bed.
Toma! It's nothing. I just thought it was funny to say your name a bunch of times for no good reason.
You know something? Index can be real pure sometimes.
Now that I think about it, there is something I want to ask you. Something Komoe told me.
Listen, this is very important. Japanese bathhouses have something called coffee milk. Do this, then this, and then with your hand on your hip, you drink it all.
Oh! I've never heard of something called coffee milk. Is it like a latte or cappuccino?
You won't find anything as fancy as that in a bathhouse. But don't be too disappointed. I bet you'll get a kick out of the bathtubs. They're gigantic.
You got that right. I've been to Japan several times, and I remember going to those bathhouses and having a relaxing time in them. I didn't experience the coffee milk though. I wish there were bathhouses like that in the West.
I was wondering how you seem to fit in so easily here.
I don't think you understand what I mean. I'm not from here. I'm European. I was born in England, London actually.
If you were born in England, then why do you have an American accent? You know, as opposed to an English accent.
Apparently, I was raised in St. George's Cathedral. I only arrived in Japan about a year ago, or so I'm told anyway.
So you're told?
Uh-huh. Apparently, I lost my memory somehow.
So let me get this straight. You have a photographic memory, yet you still lost your memories. I know how she lost them, but still, seems legit. I know now that the Necessarius lied about Index's memory problem, but do they even know what a photographic memory is?
You're just about the last person in the world who should be lecturing me about immaturity, little girl.
Hey, who are you calling little?
You, because you are little.
Index? What's with the puppy dog eyes? I was just joking around with you. Okay?
Everyone's opinion on Toma Kamijo in a nutshell.
That's weird. There's no one here. What's happening?
Runes. I engraved them around this spot so we could have a little privacy.
So you're saying that these runes can make everyone disappear except for you two. I think for Kanzaki it's because she is a member of the Necessarius, but how come Toma didn't disappear? Are the runes selective of who doesn't get affected by the spell they create?
And who the hell are you?
Kaori Kanzaki.
I hate to be extremely nitpicky here, but you said your first name wrong. It should be Kaori Kanzaki, not Kaori Kanzaki.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. I would like you to hand over Index, and I'd prefer to avoid violence.
And if I refuse?
Then you'll leave me no choice. I will tell you my other name and then take her. I'll ask once again. Are you going to hand Index over to me? Or do I need to say the name I've been withholding?
If you really needed Index, why didn't you just find her yourself instead of asking Toma to hand her over to you? As far as you and Style are concerned, Toma is not relevant to your mission.
Style has informed me about your talent. From what he tells me, your right hand can somehow render magic ineffective. But that got me thinking, what if you can't touch the source of the magic? Then you're out of luck, aren't you?
Now what? Should I try charging her?
What's even the point? A few seconds ago, you clearly couldn't see the source of her attack, and as we find out shortly, the attacks come from ultra-thin wires. It would be really difficult to cancel those out. The wires cut and pierce through Toma's right arm multiple times, but he is still able to move it in spite of that afterwards, which is physically impossible due to the amount of damage those wires caused.
Ultra-thin wires? She's been using the movement of her sword to distract me from noticing them.
What exactly is holding those wires, especially at those angles, and how long are they?
What do I do? Surrender?
I'm sorry, what did you say? Speak a little louder, I couldn't hear you.
Shut up. I was telling you to shut up. I will never surrender to a heartless monster.
You might as well surrender. You are clearly outclassed. You tried to use your right hand on her and it didn't work. What's even the point of charging at her yet again? Kanzaki is far away from Toma in this shot, but when she stabs him in the torso, she is right in front of him in the next shot. It's almost as if she has teleportation powers, which is a psychic ability, and Kanzaki is not an esper.
I know I injured her badly, but that was never my intention. It was an accident. I didn't know. I didn't realize the walking church had been compromised. I wouldn't have attacked so hard if I'd known she would get hurt like that.
You know, Toma, Index wouldn't have gotten injured to near death if you didn't destroy the walking church. Basically, it's your fault that Index almost got killed.
Hold on a second. If you're such good friends, why would you be attacking her at all?
I had to attack her in order to protect her.
If you had to attack her, then technically it's not an accident like you claim, whether the walking church was destroyed or not.
The capacity of the human brain is surprisingly small, so you forget. You get rid of the memories you don't need. Doing so keeps your brain from overloading. Forgetting keeps humans alive. However, Index cannot forget.
Do you know what the actual capacity of the human brain is? 2.5 petabytes. You want to know how much that is? 2,500 terabytes. That's 2,500,000 gigabytes. So the capacity of the human brain isn't as small as Kanzaki claims it is. And about Index's brain,
A full 85% of Index's brain is used to store the 103,000 grimoires. As a result, she has only 15% of her brain remaining to control day-to-day functions. That 15% quickly fills up with new memories, and once it's full, her brain will be overloaded.
85% of Index's brain dedicated to the grimoires sounds huge, though it shouldn't be that surprising considering the amount of grimoires Index has, which is 103,000. With all of that in mind, let's do some math here. 2,500,000 gigabytes times the 85% of Index's brain used to memorize the grimoires is 2,125,000 gigabytes. Going further, 2,125,000 divided by the 103,000 grimoires Index has is 20.63 gigabytes, which rounds to 20.6 gigabytes. This means that each grimoire would take up 20.6 gigabytes of storage. Keep in mind, all of this is 85% of Index's brain. What about the other 15%, the portion Kanzaki said is used for normal activities? Well, 2,500,000 gigabytes times the other 15% of Index's brain is 375,000 gigabytes. So overall, Index's grimoires take up 2,125,000 gigabytes of storage, with each of those grimoires being around 20.6 gigabytes in size, and the other 375,000 is used like a normal human being.
Nobody said there'd be math!
It doesn't matter whether or not she remembers me once this is over. I'll explain since you clearly don't get it. I am truly Index's friend, unlike you! Nothing you can say will change my mind. For better or worse, I'm on her side and that's how it's gonna stay. Every single thing you've said since we started talking has only convinced me more. I don't think you're telling me everything. Like why you left her in the dark on this. After stealing her memory, couldn't you still explain what was happening? Why not at least try to tell her what you're doing? Instead, you hunt her down and frighten her. When she needed somebody the most, you people abandoned her. Some friend you turned out to be.
Shut up, you ignorant little maggot! You know less than nothing. Do you think this is something we enjoy? Stealing her memories over and over and over again. You look at Style like he's some monster from a nightmare. Well, he's not. You fight for her as a friend while he must save her life by pretending to be the enemy. Do you have any idea the toll it took on him to confront you? You stay safely cocooned in your self-righteous rage while Style sacrifices everything to save his friend. What the hell gives you the right to judge us? I've done everything I can. I've tried it all. I once spent a full year, spring, summer, fall, winter, collecting memories for her. I wrote them all down in a diary, every detail I could remember so she would remember too.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't watch this scene without thinking about the Index taunt version of it.
Kanzaki さんは本当に18歳なんですか？それジーンズなんですか？短パンなんですか？とある声優さんが某アニメの打ち上げでベロンベロン。分かったようなこと言うな。私だって頑張ったんですよ。場を盛り上げようと息をしてすぐに酔いが回ってだけどどうしようもなかった。Alright, in all seriousness, not gonna lie, this scene is a little scary, even more so in the Japanese version. It shows how ruthless Kanzaki can be when she's heard enough bullshit coming from someone as dumb as Toma.
He clearly doesn't understand the situation here. Kanzaki has said several times at this point that she is only trying to protect Index, and Toma still believes Kanzaki is her enemy?
Walk slower, I can't keep up with you. Jeez, why are you in such a hurry all the time?
She isn't walking any faster than you are. It doesn't look like she's in such a hurry.
It's a good thing I'm here then. This is a job for judgment. Get back here, Kuroko! What am I supposed to do with all these bags?
Put them down and watch over them to make sure they don't get stolen? First person point of view at critical plot moments.
It was horrible. I didn't know what happened to you. Until Komaway had told me you collapsed in the middle of the road, I had no idea where you were. She was the one who found you, battered and bruised and unconscious, and carried you back here to the apartment.
Two things. One, how did Komaway know where Toma was? And two, how did she get the strength and will to carry Toma all the way back to her apartment? Toma is significantly bigger and heavier than her. There is no way she could accomplish such a task.
I didn't realize that you were fighting another sorcerer.
You mean sorceress, though you wouldn't know that.
That you were in trouble because of me. It's my fault.
To be fair, Toma didn't know that Kanzaki was going to show up, so I have no idea why you're blaming yourself for Toma getting into this predicament.
What's the deal with all these bandages? I look like a mummy.
You got hurt really badly out there. Why wouldn't Index put a lot of bandages on you?
Now you should eat something.
I appreciate it, but I'm not hungry.
Too bad. You have to eat to regain your strength. I'm a sister. I know how to care for the sick.
Yes, I know. But right now, I just like some quiet time to myself to meditate.
Is that so? You don't want the food I made?
How did she suddenly learn to make rice?
You again. What are you doing here?
Looks like you're in pretty bad shape.
How did you not know until now? You were clearly watching from behind during his fight with Kanzaki.
Index's perfect memory comes with a drawback. 85% of her brain is taken up by the grimoires, which leaves only 15% for other functions. The sorcerers say that because of this, they have to erase her memory every year or she will die. Only 3 days remain until they perform the ceremony. Wait, there were 3 days. I've been asleep how long?
3 days, you idiot. You act like you don't know this already.
Okay, Kamajo, I'm heading out now. I won't be back until late, so you're in charge.
Excuse me, did you say late or 8? Well, you're clearly not back at 8, so I bet you said late. Hard to decipher either way. Even if it isn't, late isn't a very specific time. This is Academy City, a place with highly advanced technology, yet Kamoe is old school and uses a rotary phone for communication. She is truly a wonder.
I'll make this quick.
No, you won't.
She's got 103,000 books in her head. Maybe one of those has the answer.
The church can't allow that.
Index turning on them is their greatest fear.
What are you talking about?
The grimoires are full of dangerous information. The church decreed that Index would not be allowed access to anything in them that dealt with memory manipulation.
Fine. Then why not try to get to them with your own magic?
The church is also very concerned about sorcerers outside of Necessarius gaining access to the books. Take my word for it, the grimoires are very well protected.
And then, of course, there's the fact that the act of reading the grimoires defiles the mind.
I really don't understand why Toma needs to be told that information about the grimoires again when he should already know by now what happens when someone reads them.
And, to use your words, we do indeed know that our quick fix will have the desired result of saving her life. We can't be certain something else would work, so any other method would be a gamble. It isn't a matter of not wanting to take on a challenge.
We don't want to be reckless with somebody else's life.
In that case, I don't think we'll ever see eye to eye on this.
But technically you will. She and Style will arrive here soon.
I guess all I can do now is call up some places at random and hope. Next up. Damn it!
Did he really expect most of the research labs to be open at this time at night?
Hi, is someone there?
Research on photographic memory? Yes, I'm familiar with it. What's the problem? Can you describe the issue in detail for me? Magic? Seriously? What do you think you're doing, making a prank call at this hour?
How is that a prank call? He sounded very serious, though he should have given more details than magic. Somehow, Kamoi left the door unlocked. She should have left it locked in case of strangers.
We need to root out every last memory.
Wait, just hold on. Think about it. There are over 1.8 million espers here in Academy City, and more than 1,000 research labs. If we check out those possibilities, we might not have to resort to something so drastic.
You do realize it's too late to suggest something like that, right? The ceremony begins in 15 minutes. That's not enough time to find an esper that can help.
Hey, sorcerer guy.
Sorcerer guy? You already know what his name is, dude. He even told you.
I'm Style Magnus. At least that's one of my names. But for our current purposes, I'm Fortis 931. Just 10 minutes. Understood?
Luckily, Style and Kanzaki left the apartment right before Index woke up. She would have woken up earlier than that, but the plot demands that she wakes up at this moment in time so that Toma can talk to her.
Go now! You have to get out of here!
No, it's fine. I'm staying.
Toma!
It's all done. It's over. For now, at least, it's over.
There are 10 minutes before the ceremony. There is no way you can say it is over before the most crucial part of Index's life.
A full 85% of Index's brain is used to store the 103,000 grimoires. As a result, she has only 15% of her brain remaining to control day-to-day functions. Index's memory erasure is conducted at precise yearly intervals.
Hang on a second. How is it that only a year's worth of memories can fit into that leftover 15%?
Allow me to do some more math here. If you recall, the capacity of the human brain is 2,500,000 gigabytes, and 15% of that is 375,000 gigabytes. Kanzaki said that only 1 year of Index's memories can fit into that 15%. How many gigabytes can a day of her memories take up? Well, 375,000 gigabytes divided by 365 days, assuming there is no leap year, is 1,027.39 gigabytes, which rounds up to 1,027.4. So, each day of Index's memory in 1 year would take up 1,027.4 of 375,000 gigabytes.
For the last fucking time, nobody said there'd be math!
Yes? Oh, hi, Kamajo. I recognized your voice. What are you doing using my phone without asking permission first?
How is he supposed to ask permission to use your phone when you're not there?
Someone told me a year's worth of memories take up 15% of a person's brain capacity. But if that's true, what about people who have photographic memories? Wouldn't their brains become overloaded around the time they're 7 years old?
It's true that somebody with a photographic memory is unable to forget anything. The memories are permanent no matter how trivial they are. But even so, it's impossible for someone's memories to overload their brain.
So basically, Index has no memory problems at all. That means the Necessarian Church is lying. I know Toma says that after the call, but he should have noticed this earlier.
I won't play the hero. I will be the hero!
Okay, there's no way your right arm would heal that fast, let alone 3 days.
Alright, maybe they put it someplace I haven't touched yet? No, they wouldn't.
It's a good thing you didn't go for the vagina, otherwise this scene would have emulated that scene from Chobits, where Hideki activates chi using the switch from her vagina. Just FYI, the symbol on Index's throat represents the planet Jupiter and the alchemical symbol for tin. This is not a nitpick, I'm just impressed with subtlety. I'm surprised his finger was able to go that far into Index's mouth.
St. George's holy sanctuary is having no effect on the intruder's opposition. Now switching to a more effective spell. Attempt to destroy the intruder will continue.
With how powerful that beam is, I'm surprised Toma's hand is still able to block it while not negating it.
Fortis 931!
Oh, Style can set up his runes using levitation powers? Why doesn't he do that more often in the series? Seriously, Toma wouldn't still be able to block the beam, given how much his hand is hurting right now.
Salvar 000.
Just FYI, salvare is Latin for save, and that is Kanzuki's true motivation, to save her dear friend Index by any means necessary. I think that's one reason why Kanzuki is a great character. Also, what a coincidence that the satellite just so happens to be directly above where Toma, Index, Style, and Kanzuki are. Otherwise, the beam would not have pierced through it.
What are those lights?
Those are not lights, those are clearly feathers.
Urgent warning. Reading from Chapter 6, Verse 13. New opponent has been identified. Altering combat strategy. Beginning a survey of the battle scene. Completed. Prioritizing the destruction of intruders. Strongest threat, Toma Kamijo, will be destroyed first. Urgent warning. From Chapter 22, begin Verse 1. Successfully recalculated for flame magic. A distorted version of the Church of the Cross spell has been detected, along with multiple runes. Formulating counter Church of the Cross spell. St. George's Holy Sanctuary, activating Stage 2. Eli Eli Lama Sabachthani.
She's countering my flame!
It took Toma 1 minute and 13 seconds to reach Index. The room isn't that big, dude. It shouldn't have taken you that long to get to her. Hell, there are even some shots showing him running without moving at all. Come on, guys. And just like that, folks, all of Toma's memories up to this point are completely annihilated. His time with Index, Misaka, Style, Kanzuki, and not to mention his remedial classes are completely removed from that little brain of his. Smart move there, Toma. If you just waited for Dragon's Breath's feathers to disappear, you would still remember everyone you've met, especially Index, the one person you were trying to save all this time.
And that letter there. It was sent by one of the other foreigners, was it? Whoa, whoa, whoa! I didn't think it was meant for you. It was clearly addressed to the boy. It's for him to open.
He won't mind.
How do you know that he won't mind? Wouldn't he want to read it to remember Style instead of having to remember him on his own volition in the Deep Blood arc?
Hi, Toma.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, but I think you might be looking for a different room.
His memories haven't just been lost. They've been completely obliterated.
What do you mean? What's the difference?
It's not a normal case of memory loss. The brain cells that managed his memories have been physically destroyed. I'd be very surprised if he remembered anything from his past.
If Index knew about Toma's memories being destroyed before entering his room, then how come she's shocked by it? She should have seen it coming.
Are you feeling all right, miss? You look awfully pale, like you've had a terrible shock.
Oh no, I'm fine. Really, I'm just fine, thank you.
You know, you look familiar. Have we maybe met before?
Of course. Don't you remember? We have met. It was out on the balcony of your student dormitory.
I see. I lived in a student dorm before this happened.
That's right. I showed up one day. You gave me some food, and you used your right hand to destroy my walking church.
Did you say walking church? What's that? And why would I destroy one of them?
Come on. You have to remember. Think, Toma. How could you forget fighting those two sorcerers who had been chasing me?
You called me Toma. Whose name is that?
It was yours, but you don't remember it. My name is Index, and I want you to know, even though you don't remember it, I loved you.
I'm sorry. Index is a funny name. It doesn't sound like something a girl would be called. Maybe you're talking about a pet I had. Haha! Gotcha! Hook, line, and sinker.
Toma, you colossal bastard. Why in the bloody hell would you say all of that about not remembering everything that happened in this story arc, only to then flat out say that you've been lying about it right in front of Index? Just look at how she was feeling the entire scene. She was crying, bawling her eyes over the shocking revelation that your memories have been obliterated. Doctor's words, not mine. You should totally be ashamed for even daring to say that you've been faking your memory loss just to make Index happy again. I know you didn't want Index to look sad, but lying about your memories isn't the answer, if you ask me. For shame, Toma, for shame. Okay, normally I find Index's biting to be annoying even though I became numb to it, but Toma deserved it this time. He made a mistake in faking his memory loss.
You should see a doctor.
Well, you're a doctor, so Toma is already seen one, dumbass.
You don't remember anything, do you? I told you what happened. Every last detail that those other two gave me about the event.
No, I don't.
Oh, so you've really lost your memories? Then what was the point in lying about it to Index in the first place, asshole?
So then, where do you think this remembered feeling is coming from? Where is it stored?
He's gonna say it's in his heart, isn't
Well,
he?
Doctor, that should be obvious. From my heart.
Oh, of course. The most cliche answer in terms of where something is deep down.
So far, all efforts to reestablish contact have failed. The governing board has convened an emergency session to hear further suggestions from Academy City scientists.
Oh, come on. That was only 10 seconds. Like I said earlier, you could remove this scene entirely. It serves no purpose to the actual story of this arc. Maybe it's supposed to say that the satellite was destroyed, but we were already told and shown that earlier in the episode, so there is no point to put this scene in the episode except maybe to fill up runtime. Misaka has done absolutely nothing in this story arc, so there is no reason for her screen time, except maybe in the first episode, I don't know.
I believe you are already aware of the reason you've been called back here from England. A situation has developed.
If you mean deep blood, I know.
We have indeed located a young girl who possesses the ability to kill a certain creature. A creature that we aren't even sure actually exists.
This is one of the few times in this series where they actually set things up for the next story arc. Otherwise, this entire plot feels very non-concrete. Everything relating to Index is not as important in subsequent arcs. Now, don't get me wrong, I think some of the future story arcs are better than this one, partially because I like some of the characters in those arcs better than Index. But since Toma is the main protagonist for most of these arcs, and this series is about all the magic stuff happening in Academy City, the name, A Certain Magical Index, isn't very fitting, seeing as Index is not the main focus in the story arcs after this one. Instead, she is seen more of a side character, and even a damsel in distress sometimes, though in all good science she does get a lot of screen time in some of these arcs. But remember that she isn't seen as the main focus of those arcs, at least in season 1 anyway.
Additionally, I have at my disposal one of the natural enemies of sorcery.
Do you mean the Magic Breaker? But sir, I thought the idea was to avoid using espers at all.
That won't be an issue. He's a level 0 with no abilities to speak of.
But Imagine Breaker is an ability. Toma's right hand has the power to cancel out other powers, or is that not an ability to you?
We've never seen the power of deep blood. Can we even be certain it truly exists?
Just because you haven't seen the power of deep blood doesn't mean it doesn't exist. For all we know, sorcerers outside of your group have seen it, and know that it does exist.